Another edition of I Love Black People, and we're just so blessed and so fortunate today to have someone who's been a trailblazer, just a regular superhero without a cape. You know, he's born in 1969, and I was too, so I think there might be a connection, but in no way could it ever be as clear as his life's work of how an amazing, wonderful, dynamic Black man actually stands in the face of adversity as well as in good times. Is our brother, your brother, good brother, Ronald Moten.
This is I Love Black People Radio on HUR Voices, Sirius XM, Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are.
Thank you, Brian, for joining us.
What's up, brother? It's my pleasure.
Humbly. We'll introduce you. I know I gave the flowers, but just if you could kind of like give some background, you know, we're national, so just in case there might be a few people who haven't heard about brother Ronald Moten, please share some of that background.
Well, I'm just a humble servant to the people. I've been blessed to travel and see some miracles happen amongst my people. So been inspired to do some great things by not being broken by many disappointments that we have when you're in the struggle, fighting for humanity, especially when you're fighting for Black people, because you know that comes with a lot, you know, especially if you're really trying to help others as well as yourself. You know, it comes with you trying to help people and then people using your people to tear you down in the midst of you helping them. So, you know, it's been a good journey, you know, since 1994 when I started doing the work. I used to work with an organization called Ceasefire Don't Smoke the Brothers and Sisters. And upon coming home from prison in October 94, I was immediately enrolled into the spokesperson of the organization. And from there, I became a youth organizer for the Million Man March. Probably was one of the best experiences I ever had because I was able to see something that everybody said wasn't going to happen. And I was there from the beginning to the end, from the point where they said, oh, this is not going to happen. And they said, oh, Muslims and Christians can't work together. And then they said Black Muslims ain't no good. And I saw people work past all that for the common goal of just helping Black people. And I remember like it was yesterday going around talking to people, being recognized as a youth leader. And all the way up to that day when it was supposed to rain, and I saw the djembes play that morning at the Million Man March, and then the sun came out. And then you had Black people bumping into each other saying, my bad, brother. How you doing, brother? I love you, brother. And then I saw 2 million people come. So, and then that next day, I had dinner with Brother Farrakhan at the Omni Showroom Hotel. So I'm experiencing all this as a young man who came home from prison determined not to do any more destructive things for greed that would help hurt my people, but decided to give my life to my people. So for 9 straight years, I worked in the community on the job training, not getting paid for anything, determined to make things better, to make up for what I had did, which was sell drugs to my community to, you know, get lavish things like a lot of our young people are doing based upon what they see in the music videos and things like that. And I was able to go to prison, thank God. A lot of people say, well, why did you say that? Well, most of the people around me were getting killed. And I was doing something really unproductive, which was selling drugs in my community. And I went to prison after being locked up several times, but had money to pay lawyers and get off. And when I went to prison this time, I sat still for some years, and I, got my GED, and I went to college, and I studied history, and I studied history, and I studied history. So when I came home, I knew what my purpose was. And like I said, I started that. I went from that to starting a Peaceaholics, which was an organization, pretty much had the city on lock when it comes to doing the work. Sent 160 children, most of them from rival crews and gangs to college. Brokered over 40 truces. And then it was destroyed by the government, like most things that help Black people. They're normally destroyed for several reasons, but it made me stronger. It made me wiser. And during my downtime of trying to find a way to get back up, God sent a group of young people to me, a group of gay children at that, who had been marginalized. All of them had been raped as children, and people turned their backs on them because they came from poor neighborhoods. The gay people didn't even want to help them. So with me, when they said, "Ron, you never helped the gay children," I looked at them like human beings and said, "I help whoever want to help themselves." So I asked them what they wanted to do, and they said, "Start a clothing line." So we started a clothing line, and after we started the clothing line, it was 8 years of struggling. And we went from starting a clothing line to somebody letting us use an office space to that person moving out and us getting a building, convincing the landlord to rent it to us, raise $70,000 without the government, fix the building up. It went from that to us getting the government to give us $2 million to buy the buildings, all three of them. And from that, getting a big developer to give us the property behind the buildings. All because we were doing work for our community for all these years and never getting paid for it. So we made ourselves valuable before we asked anybody for anything. And then we were rewarded for our good deeds. Now we're currently about to do the Go-Go Museum programs for returning citizens and LGBT youth who had similar situations as them. And also over 2 years ago, me and several others co-founded the whole Don't Mute DC movement that went viral around the country when we got 87,000 people to sign a petition. And through that movement, we were able to save a hospital east of the river that served 160,000 people when they were trying to take $25 million out of the budget for the hospital that one hospital that served 160,000 people. And we were able to get the money put back in the budget. We got $3 million donated to the Go-Go music community, saving our music and culture, which led to the music also being DC's official music. We helped Banneker students organize with some of the parents to ensure that they got their high school with a field, we just done so many things, man. And most importantly, we inspire Black people in DC that it's not over. Because many people were walking around with their tail between their legs and act like, hey, we lost the whole city. But we haven't. We still have Wards 7 and 8. The corridor where I'm at in historic Anacostia, 7 Black people have brought their properties, which is historic. And we're trying to save the culture and make it so what happened where I grew up in Petworth, where I cry every time I go out there because all the culture, all the people, all the businesses that were Black had been erased. But we have an opportunity to do something in Washington, D.C., in historic Anacostia that can be modeled around the country, which is that we can still bring about good change, but don't erase what was there when nobody wanted to be there. And that same thing happens in Lagos. One of my partners was in Lagos, and she was telling me how none of the natives in Lagos and Nigeria could play their music in the clubs there. Even though the people from the outside wanted to hear it, they didn't let the locals play their music. And the locals are getting pushed out of all the major cities throughout the world, not just America. So this is an international issue. This is an international problem.
Now you raise a point that's so powerful with erasure. And we talk about white supremacist ideology, we talk about colonialism and gentrification. Not only do they co-opt, but the fact that these systems erase, even Lagos. If you take Nigeria back to when it was Benin, Lagos is actually a Portuguese word for lakes. It's not even an indigenous name. Like you hear the name Cameroon. Cameroon is a Portuguese word for shrimp. So we literally, they erase us, like as if they take the knowledge for themselves, give no one else credit for it, and then erase us. I mean, it's such a powerful. I mean, again, you drop these nuggets. You've written books about it. I know you're writing another book. Where do you get your inspiration? You know, one of the things, Ron, you're such a dynamo, colossal. You know, there's words people don't normally use. I think you're like not normal. So colossal. Where do you get the energy, the creativity, the fortitude, the resilience, the resourcefulness, the kindness, the generosity? Where do you get that from? Well, I mean, when you get up in the morning, bro, it must be a firestorm. I'm like, what's going on?
Well, I don't sleep a lot. I tell people all the time I'm too broke to sleep. You know, I don't know how broke people sleep all day. I just don't get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think about, you know, when I retire, to be able to retire and not, you know, wake up trying to figure out how I'm gonna feed myself. I want to wake up thinking about what I'm leaving my children. So I don't know how you just sleep all day, you know? Even when we going through things, I can't. So I'm up prior to like 12 o'clock thinking about the next move or how I'm gonna deal with situations or what are the solutions and how to enact them. And I believe it's in my genes, it's in my DNA. I'm 52, but I'll work most people 25, you know, and still have a lot of energy, but I don't do drugs, you know, never been, you know, a heavy drug user. I might smoke weed twice a year, to be honest with you, if I do it that much. I might drink alcohol once a month. So I've been like this all my life. And you know, Malcolm X is my cousin, so I believe, you know, it runs in the bloodline. The energy, you know, I think it's just something that you're taught. Like I watched my grandparents work hard every day who raised me. I watched my father and mother who had problems with substance abuse work hard every day, functioning even as addicts, never sitting home, you know. So I've always been inspired to work hard. Nobody ever sat around in my house, you know what I'm saying? And nobody ever gave up or made up excuses, even though they were going through whatever they were going through. So on top of that, you know, I was trained by a lot of people who worked with Martin Luther King. I was blessed, you know, to be around those people. I was blessed as a child to be in living rooms with my aunts, Debbie Roundtree and Gwendolyn Hayward, who were civil rights attorneys. And at that time, I'd be upstairs and come downstairs, and I didn't know what the hell was going on, but I knew Dorothy Heights was in there and all these prominent Black people be playing the piano, and they have these dinners, and she would say, well, you need to go to bed because, you know, you got to get up and rake the leaves and shovel the snow. And I would leave from 16th Street with a pocket full of money from raking all the upper class Black people's grass and leaves. So I was always taught you can't get something for nothing. So I always knew that I had to work hard. And it wasn't always about education. It was about understanding that if you wake up every day and work hard and try hard, God's going to give you the wisdom that you need. Because one, if you outwork everybody, the rest comes. You know, if you hang around wise people, I've always hung around wise people smarter than me. I never, like most people that I know, they try to keep people around them that are not smarter than them because they're inferior to them. I always want people to tell me when I'm wrong and what I need to do better. So I've never been inferior to any other man or woman. So that's always been a benefit to me, because if I'm hanging around people who, you know, not worried about what I'm having or what I have, what I'm doing, they're going to help me more so than try to keep me down most of the time.
Now, Ron, I know you're saying that you allow people to tell you something. I'm not saying that you're the type of person you can't tell that, because you
Right.
definitely are a listener. I think one of the things it would be helpful to also talk about, besides the fact that you oftentimes are surrounded by some of the best and brightest people, and are able to collaborate in ways that I think most people don't. How about your intergenerational activity, like to be 52? And to stay relevant, to stay in the times, but not of the times. I don't know how to say it, but you've been working with young people and you work well with old folks. Now, sometimes I've seen folks who just work with young folks because it's maybe sometimes insecure or don't want to deal with folks their age or older. I've seen you run the gambit. And in all these circles, you bring this amazing energy. How do you, as a Gen Xer, how do you keep this thing relevant and connected intergenerationally without the generational chauvinism? They say sometimes they would say, "Oh, the civil rights." Every generation has contributed. How do you interact in that intergenerational space?
First of all, I understand this work is spiritual. So if I stay spiritual, I can connect with anybody because the eyes are the mirror of a person's soul. So if I can look you in the eye and believe what I'm saying, whether I can talk your slang or not, you're going to feel what I'm saying. So with most young people, they know when I come, I mean business. And I'm truthful. And either you're going to like me or you're not going to like me. And that's how I stand. I also understand the using music and culture. And if you study any movement going back 400 years, we always use music and culture. So if you understand how music and culture works, you always have a connection to the people, whether they're young or old. So just understanding that the first two forms of communication was the drum and the voice. If you understand that, you know how to communicate with our people. And then if you give young people something to live for, and they know when you're coming to pull them up versus to talk down to them, they're always going to be there listening to you, whether they consider you an OG, or somebody who's trying to be like, I never try to be like a young person because I'm not young anymore. But I let them know I can be young if I wanted to because I've taken care of myself. And they respect that, They respect the fact that I'm 52 and try to act like I'm 52 other than not trying to look like I'm 52. You know what I'm saying?
How about the style? How about your style? How do you stay so stylish? Again, I'm not on your thing like that, but I'm just saying, at 52, even I when I see you, and I'm sure people may not say it or admit it, but there's a certain stylistic, artistic avant-gardeness that's still like right there. Like you're not like you wearing plastic bags with like flowers and polka dots. You literally, bro, will take like a leading edge of that. Like, where do you get that? Like, it's amazing. And you could be talking about any topic and still throw a little like a swag piece to it that most activist type you don't see. You know what I'm saying? I'm used to the musty, kind of tacky wearing, brown paper bag activist style. You throw a little something on it. What's that about?
Well, I just think that's something natural. One thing that I've always learned to be is try to be original. And I never try to be like nobody else. I don't wear tattoos. I don't get my earrings. I don't put earrings in my ears. Not saying I'm against what somebody else does. I always try to be the direct opposite of what everybody else does. So when you do that, you tend to stand out. When I dress, most of the time I don't buy what everybody else buys, even though I buy everything. I buy European clothes sometimes. I have to admit it, but I buy a lot of black stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like if I like the dashiki I wore from Ghana the other day, when I wore it, people like, where you get that from? So I just know certain flavors and how to make it look the way I want it to look. So, I think that this comes, it's just so funny. I used to dress sometimes and people would talk about what I'm wearing. I go all the way back to when we was in the streets and I'd be wearing cowboy boots, snake skins or gators, and my friends would be like, man, that Bama stuff he went, right? And then I look at the girls, I'd be like, y'all like my shoes? They say, yeah, that's tight. So next thing I know, 2 weeks later, I see them wearing cowboy boots. You know what I'm saying? So I always did the direct opposite what I saw other people do without going too far. You know, we got some people that go too far.
I don't know that I don't know if there's any boundaries that could ever hold a brother Ronald Moten. What about the book? Yeah, and I know you got, yeah, again. First of all, kudos to the properties. That's real. Land is real. It's substantive. I think it's not even what I think. That's a relevant thing, and the fact that you've been able to secure and leverage your relationships, and people think so much of what you've done for all of us, even folks who don't live in those neighborhoods. uh, what about? I know you had mentioned before about a book that's going to be coming out.
Yeah.
Is that something you're doing sooner or later? I know you already have a book.
Yeah, it's pretty much done. My second book is pretty much done. And, the only thing I didn't elaborate in that book was one of the things I mastered is just finding good people everywhere. I pride myself on not letting people tell me who to deal with. Like people talk bad about Trump, but I was in the White House 4 times under Trump. Never got in the White House under Obama. Does that make Obama a bad person or Trump a good person? No, right? But if I would have listened to people, I would have never went in the White House and worked with my brother Jerron, who was helping us with legislation for the second chance act, Second Step Act that brought a lot of brothers home.
Go ahead.
So, I never let nobody. If I would listen to what people told me, the Jack Kemp Foundation, which is a moderate Republican organization, this was just like his father, Jack Kemp. I work with his brother Jimmy Kemp. That's one of the people who helped keep me going when nobody would help us, when nobody would help these poor gay children I was working with or returning citizens I was working with at the time. They helped me. You know what I'm saying? I work with gay people. I'm not gay, but I know a lot of good gay people. And they never try to make me gay. They just who they are, and I am who I am. And they help me, So if I ever would have listened to what people or worried about what people said, the same people that came back after we got the buildings and said, man, what you did was gangster. You know what I'm saying? If I ever would have listened to them, we wouldn't have nothing. So I think one of the things I would tell people, master finding good people wherever they exist. No matter what color they are, no matter what their sexual preference is or whatever. You don't have to change for nobody, just as long as they're good people.
Now, I think you was teaching me on principle. Again, I'm definitely on that pro-black, but in that being clear that on principle, you support folks based on their character. And again, you could be a black poverty pimp hurting people. That's unacceptable. A liar, thief, no good person is a lying thief and no good person in that context.
The devil works in all types of shapes and sizes.
Right. And then another thing, you always talk about politics. So I know you alluded to some of your political engagements. Does this book talk about some of that nuance of people,
well, the book talks about it. Basically is based upon like 14 or 15 op-eds that I wrote, most of them in the Washington Post since 2014. Okay. So it talks about citizenship versus snitching. It talks about what a crane would never lift, how in DC we got away from human development and we started developing buildings, and you can never have positive economic development without building people up simultaneously. So when the control board came into DC and took away our powers, they took the trades out of school and they took the music out of school, which helped build a black middle class. Deliberately took it out of schools throughout the country. So then for 30 years, black people got away from being good with their hands. And then we look at the poor children in the streets and say, why are they so lazy? But we don't talk about the fact that we took what was passed down from generations, just like any other race, our Latino brothers or anybody else they come with trades and skills because it's passed down through generations. They took that away from us. So, I talk about, where the crane would never lift. I talk about why we can't leave Black girls behind. You know, I believe Black women a lot of times, you know, people they cater to them sometimes, but I also see what's happening to our young Black women too in our communities. And if our Black women get in trouble, from what I'm seeing, how the social media talk about the social media, the impact of social media on our people, right? So it's a lot of different things that I talk about, but I talk about solutions. See, what I don't like is when people get on social media or the internet and we always talk about the problem, but we don't come with no solutions, right? Other people, they assess the problem and they figure out how they're going to solve them. And they have a strategy, they have a plan of action, right? And they know how they're going to get there. What we do is we're very emotional people.
Mm.
And you take away a person's history, they doomed.
Go ahead. Well, on that, we're gonna let that be the word, and we dropped it. And just thank you so much, brother Ron. Thank you for your mentoring me and showing me so many ways and being a rock. And as we always leave here, I am because we are, and I definitely wouldn't be me without Ronald Moten. And I appreciate you, black man.
This is I Love Black People Radio on HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.